leave it saying.
Yep, there we go.
Oh, that's terrifying.
Okay. So, good evening, everyone. I'm going to give it a few minutes while everyone gets a chance to log on. I really convinced myself I was going to have some really great entertainment to share by this time, you know, maybe some nice music playing in the background, some snacks available, I don't know, but that didn't happen. So I apologize for that, but we do have some great presenters, so I've got that going for me. So it is 7 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get started. I apologize for those of you who have heard this before, but for those that are new, I'd like to welcome you to the Family Resource Center webinar. I want to tell you a little bit. Oh, look, if I move my wheel, it does that. Oh, sorry. Okay, look. About 50 webinars in, and I just now figured that out. So I want to tell you a little bit about the Family Resource Center. The FRC is housed with Clovis Unified's early intervention program called City Kids. So I support families birth to 3 while they're going through early intervention. But then the FRC continues to serve families in Clovis all the way up to age 22. So I serve the whole school district. I help families understand their parent rights, navigate special education, get connected to the resources they need. And so please just know if you need support, you are welcome to reach out to the FRC, and I would love to serve you. Okay, so a little bit of housekeeping. For questions, we are going to use the question and answer feature. There is a toolbar, I'm assuming along the bottom of your screen, that says Q&A. If you would use that to communicate with us, that would be so helpful. Things get lost in the chat when, you know, we have a larger crowd like this, and so if you would just put in the question answer, we will get to them. And go ahead and just put them in there as we go along, and then as the presenters have time, we'll take breaks and get those answered. The chat, if you would like to right now while we're talking, go ahead and put in the chat and tell us who you are and where you're from if you feel comfortable with that. You can also use it to just communicate with the other participants. In a moment, I'm going to post the link for all the handouts. Last night, you should have gotten an email from me, and it had the link there as well, but don't worry if you didn't. I'm going to put in the chat. You can access them then. A survey. When you log off tonight, in theory, there should be a survey that pops up. It's just a few questions, but please, it is valuable information to me. It helps me know if these webinars are meeting your need. And also, I really do value your feedback. The FRC gets grant funding as well, and it just helps me to know that I'm serving you well. So again, it just takes a moment, and so please do that. Many of you asked about a certificate of attendance. You will get that in the morning. So whatever email you registered for this webinar with, I will send you an email tomorrow morning, and it will have all the resources from tonight. It will have the link to the handouts. It's going to have the link to the recording of this webinar on the FRC YouTube channel. It's going to have the link to the survey. So don't fret if you're on your phone and feeling like this is too much to navigate. It'll be okay. Tomorrow morning, you'll get an email. Lastly, too, well, not quite lastly, but some of you often wonder, can we see you? No, we can't. So it's okay if you're in your jammies or sipping your coffee or whatever it is you may be sipping on. It is okay. We can't see you. So I get that question every single time. So I just want to give that disclaimer. This is in webinar mode. So for those of you that aren't quite familiar with it, there's no video coming through. So feel comfortable to relax and have a snack. Wrong way. Okay, disclaimer very quickly. So obviously this is a parent-to-parent training. This isn't legal or, medical advice. We're just trying to support you and make sure that, you have information that we hope you find helpful. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And there are the pretty faces of our presenters. We have Jessica Cox and Amber Allred, and I'm going to let them take over and introduce themselves. So thank you, ladies.
Yeah, go ahead, Amber.
My name is Amber Allred, and I'm a board certified behavior analyst for Clovis Unified School District. I'm district-wide, and I provide consultation to pretty much ages 3 through the adult transition program.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jessica Cox, and I am a school psychologist for Clovis Unified. I am a member of our behavior consultation team, and currently I serve all of our kids in our state preschool through child development, as well as Campus Club and ACEs. And then I also have the Buchanan area where we serve all ages. So we're happy to have you guys here tonight. Thank you for coming.
And ladies, right before you start, I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll. We got a good idea of, it looks like there's a good age range of families that are participating and they're professionals, but go ahead and start talking. But I'm just going to launch this poll real quick just to get a real general idea of who is here. We've got about 60 participants right now. Okay, and so awesome. We'll just see, are they professionals or parents? Yeah. Okay, so go ahead.
Okay, and this will tie into, so we're going to ask you when you're done in the poll, our very first, let me see here if this is going to work. Slide here is just, we're just wanting to get to know our audience a little better as well. So we love that we're going to get to see who's here on the poll, but then also if you could just share in the chat too, what brought you here tonight? Are you seeing some specific challenges in the home? And just let us know what kind of led you to be like, ooh, I really want to go log on to that and see what's going on.
Yeah, and it looks like we've got literally split right down the middle. Half parents, half professionals, and then we've got someone from a community agency as well. Yay. Thank you, everybody, for taking that poll. Okay. So can you see the chat, Jessica?
I'm pulling it up right now.
Okay. Yeah, so we've got some of the challenges are meltdowns and constant talking, working on being more patient with our kids. Amen, Haley. We all can relate to that. We were just having that discussion before we logged on. I love the one parent putting here, parents to 3 monkeys. Yep, we get it. That's the truth. Learn new ways to deal with our 4 children, 5 and under. Yeah, that's damage control at that point, right?
Yeah. And then I'm seeing great behaviors at home, behaviors at school. Looks like we have a good mixture too of people wanting resources for their classrooms and as well as at home. So okay, we have some adult kids as well as younger ones. Awesome. We tried to make this so that we were able to hit the span of everybody. So that's good.
And that's not easy to do. And so thank you, ladies, for trying. It's hard when I say, when people say, well, when I tell the presenter, you just need to make sure that it encompasses everybody. So that's not an easy target to hit. And you'll find in the Google Drive, I'm going to post that in the chat in just a second here. We did try and include resources for both young and older children and teenagers. So, but always feel free to reach out again if, you know, you have more questions.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, ladies. I'm gonna post that in the chat.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so moving forward here. Let's see here, my little computer is being. So with this slide, I actually borrowed this slide from, and for those of you that are on here that maybe have gone through some of the training with Vested, I just thought it was really important. This gets me every time that we do this slide in a training with, or I've seen it in a training be done. So let me just go through each of the parts of it, but it's just hitting home about how much with behavior, sometimes our expectations are just that we expect our kids to figure this out and navigate it independently, when really there's really no other areas that we expect that of them. We're always looking to teach them how to do new things. So I'm going to go through and this just goes sentence by sentence, and we just kind of go through them together. So point one, if a child doesn't know how to read, we teach. If a child doesn't know how to swim, we teach. If a child doesn't know how to multiply, we teach. If a child doesn't know how to drive, we teach. And then if a child doesn't know how to behave, we only punish. Do we teach? And usually when we get to this question, there's just some hesitancy. There's really not an automatic answer for people to say like, oh, we teach them how to behave. Usually it goes straight to the consequences, or, you know, what we need to put in place to punish those behaviors. So I always like to kind of bring the two together, that, you know, if we've never taught our kids to read, we're not going to say, you know what, you need to go to your room and don't come back out until you know how to read, right? So just trying to think along those lines. If we haven't taught our kids the expectations of how to handle a situation or navigate maybe a problem or a conflict, it's something that we really need to step back and teach them how to work through that, and what are the skills that they need to be able to process different things, react in certain situations. You know, we're not saying that our kids can't ever have consequences, but we want to make sure that we're teaching them what the expectations are first, before just reverting to only punishment without being taught what we're really wanting them to do in that situation.
All right, so just kind of a general overview with behavior. Behavior is definitely, it's one way to express yourself. If you think about it, everything that we do is we're either trying to express what we need, and we're trying to get a certain outcome. So with behavior, there's the verbal way. So that's the expression. You know, that's stating how I feel or asking for something that I want. And then there's the nonverbal part of it, body language, gestures. Even with body language or having a certain gesture, there is an outcome that someone might want to get. For example, I think of eye rolling. You know, I might not say how I'm feeling, but I might eye roll, and that's definitely a way to communicate. You also see with individuals who have communication deficits, you will see the behavior come out in the aggression, or maybe kicking, yelling, or, you know, something that, you know, you might not get that, hey, I'm feeling, you know, really scared right now, or I'm feeling sad. You might just see crying instead. So kind of keeping those two things in mind. There's different ways that we behave, and we're trying to express ourselves. It's also a form of the communication. I really like the saying that no response is a response. That's also a form of communication. We're trying to get a certain need, or we're trying to get, that ending result, that maybe when we've done it before, we've got that result. So we're going to continue to do it. And there's one example. I love this example. I've heard it like years ago. I literally can't remember where I heard it, but I think of a vending machine. When you go to a vending machine, you put your money in, and when the little twisty thing, when it doesn't release the candy that you bought, you think, okay, how am I going to get this candy? So the first thing you do is you put your money in, you push the little buttons, and that's one behavior, because if I push the buttons, I put my money in, I'm going to get the candy. Well, the candy doesn't come out because it's not released. So then you think, okay, I'm gonna start, maybe pushing more buttons. I'll push them a little bit more, and maybe it'll fall out. That doesn't work. Then you start banging on the glass part, and that's not working. So then your behavior starts getting a little more extreme. Well, I'm going to shake it. I'm going to shake this back and forth. And so as this is happening, the behavior starts increasing, because you want that outcome. So when it comes to kiddos, it's the same thing. It comes to, okay, I'm going to, maybe start crying. And well, I didn't get what I wanted. So maybe I'm going to start kicking, and then maybe I'm going to start hitting. So that escalation of behaviors, it starts increasing, because they, may be looking for that specific outcome. And all of it, every behavior is a type of form of communication.
So once we have a good idea of, what the behavior is that we're seeing with our kiddos and what they're trying to communicate to us in that moment, in that manner, we definitely want to make sure that we are teaching them the alternative way to let us know how we can help them get their needs met. We want to know, is there a different way that you could be communicating that I can help you problem solve this a little bit faster? Is there something else you can do or say that could have a better outcome than maybe some of the behaviors that we're seeing? So I think that it's really important when we're talking to our kids to really ask those questions. Well, when you were really upset, 10 minutes ago, what were you trying to let me know, or what were you trying to let sister know at that time before you got really upset? And really pulling that communication out of them. Once we know what they were looking for, how they were trying to communicate, or once we feel like our kiddos have a good idea of what the behavior expectations are for them, and what's going to work for us and our families, one of the most important things to follow up with them is really giving them feedback for when they are engaging in the behaviors that we want to see them engage in. This is really, really crucial when it comes to them getting that feedback, and then the likelihood that they're going to do that behavior again. So we actually stopped whatever we were doing. You might be in the middle of folding a load of laundry, and you might hear in the background that maybe, your two kids maybe worked out a conflict together, or maybe you heard one of them say, oh, that's okay, you can have this toy at that time. Really acknowledging in the moment that we hear those things, we see those things, and letting them know exactly what it is that we see is so, so important for our kids to hear, to know, I got acknowledged for that. I know exactly what, whoever said it, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, said to me. That's what they were talking about when we had that conversation of what is expected of my behavior at home. What are the things that as our family unit work for us to have done in our home? So sometimes and it's okay to say, like, that was awesome, thank you so much for doing that, good job, those things, beautiful, that feedback is great. It's when we expand on that and really let them know, though, that they did the behavior that we talked about too. Then they know exactly, like, oh yeah, like we did have that conversation. Like, I am supposed to put my plate in the sink when I'm done eating. So mom gave me that feedback. You put your plate in the sink when you were finished. Thank you. That was super helpful. Maybe that's something that's been a battle. homework. Maybe they got through their homework and there was maybe only 1 or 2 times that they gave us a little pushback versus 10. We really want to acknowledge that with them and say, hey, when we were sitting down doing homework tonight, you really did a great job holding it together. We had 2 little hiccups, but look, we got through it. I'm so proud of you for finishing that, and just really reinforcing some of those behaviors that we're talking to them about that we really are expecting them to have, that we've taught them as expectations in the home. Okay. I got Leanne.
Yes.
I can see when we have people like raising their hands throughout, I can see it pop up that someone raised their hand, but then I can't see who went where.
Oh, it does. I don't show anyone has their hand raised right now.
Okay, so I didn't want anyone, I'm not ignoring anybody. I saw it like name dropped down on the top of my screen that a couple times that a hand was raised, so
Okay.
I wasn't
Well,
sure.
and like I said, if they have questions, by all means, put them in the question and answer, that Q&A, so that we can get them addressed.
Okay, beautiful.
But
Thank you. I can't.
that's okay.
See.
Since we have a little low, can I ask you a question going back to what you were just talking about?
Yeah.
So I think that's hard as parents sometimes to get into that habit of trying to catch our kids being good, because we do get so stuck on, just do it, I think sometimes as parents, I know I did anyway, I would think to myself, you do this is the outcome every single time. At what point, are you going to think differently?
Yeah.
And you get into a negative of almost like you're just waiting for the shoe to drop. You're waiting for it to happen. And, like you said, you have that mindset of always inflicting a consequence or always punishing. And it really is a change of attitude on our part as the parents to be proactive and trying to lay out that a positive attitude, like, oh my goodness, you did it. Even if it's a little small success, if it's better than it was before, then that's a win today. And acknowledging that, because I think our kids get beaten down too emotionally of just like, well, why should I even try? Right? Because I'm just going to mess it up. And so I love that, it sounds so simple, really, it does. But as a veteran parent, I can say it's true. And it does take effort. It really does. Yeah. Take a shift of your mind to be like, I'm going to catch them being good.
Yeah.
So
I love that you bring that up because it's so true. And even for me, even when I even first walk through the door at the end of the day, after work, and I'm like, we're mom or parents, whatever, we scan everything, right? And I'm seeing, oh, your shoes didn't get put away. Oh, and there's a backpack laying there. That, like, all of these things that, it's so, we want to react and we want to say those things. And I even have to like talk to myself and stop and be like, okay, before we point out like all the things that we didn't do, let's find some things around here that, that they did do. And it does, it is a huge shift to really think about, like, we don't really think like, by me coming in and pointing out, maybe 4 things in a row that I expected them to do that they didn't. You're totally right. It does wear on them. And I know in education, we talk about it a lot, is like filling our kids' buckets. So it's like this, it's the same concept at home is, just like as, teachers or staff, like as our kids come in, like we're acknowledging them, we're excited to see them, we're, telling them like, I'm happy you're here. Like, oh, you drew this picture for me. Let's talk about it. And we want to, the second that they walk through the door, fill their emotional bucket with that. Because then when we are giving them feedback when we need to, like, hey, bud, like, in that moment, I really needed you not to hit your brother. What I needed you to do was come get me so that I could help you guys work through that. But their bucket is already more full with a lot of positive things that they've heard throughout the day. Getting that feedback, they handle it better because it's not like all they've heard all day is every single thing that you've done wrong. We've given them that praise and that feedback, and it really does, the research does show that it makes them more likely to hear what we're saying in those harder moments when we are giving them I don't always want to call it negative feedback, but any other kind of feedback other than praising them, or when we're having more difficult conversations with them. So that's a great.
And don't you think too, Amber and Jessica, that first off, that's true in most of our relationships in our family, right? Whether it's our spouse, anyone, of getting into that habit of noticing the things they do that are helpful and kind, and not always just pointing out, like you said, what went wrong. But also, I think as parents, we get can get fearful that, well, if we don't, nail them for, everything, that we're just going to be a pushover. But that's not what we're talking about. It's a general attitude of trying to be focused more on what is going right. So then when you do have to say, correct them, that it is more meaningful. I think about that even with work, us as adults, right? In our daily interactions. If we've all had a boss at one time or another in our lives that you just dreaded being around because you knew that no matter what you did, it wasn't going to be good enough. And, or you were never going to get that positive, good job. It was always going to be, well, you did this or you didn't do that. And it's hard to function like that, and that's just at work, and you're getting paid to do that. Being a kid, that's hard if you do struggle with self-control and you do struggle, with impulse control and managing your behaviors. I like how you put too that it's not necessarily just a generic, oh, good job, but it really is being specific and labeling what it is that they did right. So I as a mom, that's very hard. I think it's just trained, oh, good job, or nice painting or whatever, but to really be specific and put that effort in, again, to teach them what it is they're doing that is right. So
my thank you. And I'll be like, thank you. And they like turn around like, well, because at the door, I shut the light off. I did the, like,
yeah.
Like the thing I was talking about.
And also kind of with that, Leanne, you mentioned you don't want to be a pushover. You don't want to just give all this, all this praise and let things slide. I think they're, sitting down and thinking like, what are my non-negotiables? What are those things that I could let go? Maybe the shoes didn't make it quite by the door. Maybe we can let that go, but hey, you really need to put your dirty laundry in the laundry basket. So kind of coming up with those non-negotiables, because I think these are the things that I think it might put the kid at ease and the parent. Like, these are my things I can kind of let go and we can, move on with our day. But hey, we talked about these are our non-negotiables. This is the things that I really need you to do. And this is why I need you to do it. And I think it really sets those boundaries, and it sets those really healthy boundaries, and it models that for the kiddo as well. And then you kind of bring it up with the work situation, and you have the boss, and you're like constantly getting that negative feedback over and over again. And it's very wearing. And, as an adult, we have to set those boundaries. Like, what is my non-negotiables? This is not working for me. What do I then need to do? And modeling that with the kids and showing them, okay, like, we can have fun times. Doesn't mean I'm a pushover. There's the, other things that we need to do as well. So
I love that, Amber. You're right. That goes back to what Jessica said about having the expectations, that children know they're front loaded. Look, these are the 5 rules that our family lives by. We don't break these, but then there's all those gray areas that, like you said, can be a work in progress. But you're right. I think kids get so much security out of having those boundaries and knowing that expectation, right? We all, knowing these are our family rules and this is what we live by.
Yeah. And I think this conversation, it really does roll beautiful into the next slide, which along with the boundaries and the expectations, we know that another thing that really helps our kids reduce their anxiety and, sometimes acting out or having to do a different activity is really letting them know what is our family schedule, what is our routine, what is going to be expected of you from when you get up in the morning, then throughout your day and then throughout the evening. We definitely know when our kids know what to expect. It just seems to work out better in all aspects of our lives. But, and we know that we can't and won't always keep the same routine. And I know that we all know that weekend routine looks different than Monday through Friday routine. And Monday's routine might be different from Tuesday, and that's okay. Our kids are so awesome at adjusting and being flexible with those things. It's just as much as we can let them know what Mondays typically look like, what Tuesday, and then what, the expectations are from the weekend. It definitely helps them. The sooner that we do it for them and get those things put into place, they start developing those things naturally. They become habits for them. So if maybe initially we have to kind of write a schedule down for our kids, it doesn't mean that forever we have to write a schedule down for our kids. I don't know. I still write my own schedule down to get through life, but some of the more natural things at home, like, when my alarm goes off, I get up, I get dressed, I brush my teeth, all of the things for your morning routine. Maybe initially we do need to have pictures or words or a list for my teenager to get through in the morning before he gets out the door for school. But eventually those things just become habits that they keep, through adulthood that are great for them, that they don't really need the visual reminders for those things. But when it comes to, other parts of the days, like if they have practices or their class schedule, things like that, those are things that, we really continue. The things that change on a constant basis, those are the things that could help with having lists or the calendars or specific times that we do those things. Sorry. Were you talking, Leanne? No, okay.
Myself. Sorry, I was typing.
So you guys have anything to add about schedules, routines, things like that for our kids?
Well, I think just like what you said, I think, whether we know some of our friends with disabilities, how much that is helpful to them to have that schedule, just knowing what to expect. But like you said, really just front loading our kids as to those expectations. I mean, we've all had those mornings where we're rushing out, we're all screaming at each other, the car won't start, the dog got out, right? And we're all a hot mess. But if you know what your trigger is, right? If you know when that hot spot is, maybe it's every night at dinner time, right? The kids, just lose their minds, you lose your mind. Well, what can you do to make that time go smoother? If it's the morning, can you prepare things ahead of time? Maybe have their lunches packed the night before. Just get creative and really thinking about it ahead of time instead of in the moment and reacting. But again, that's just mom advice from, being that mom, chasing the dog down the street, in my robe, yelling at the kids, get your butt in the car. But,
Yeah, definitely in the moment, when I think about just people in general, when you're escalated or you have that anxiety, looking at a schedule is probably very hard at that time. So it's prior to that, like this is going to be, more of a chaotic time the night before. Let's look at the schedule. Let's look at what we have going on, and how can we set up our morning, making the lunches, or like, hey, let's lay our clothes out. Let's put our shoes out, or let's, get everything ready. So we're not in that escalated stage and then, oh, by the way, here's your schedule, so it's that one more thing I got to think. And it's really hard to process when you are in that kind of chaotic mode.
And don't you think getting their buy-in, of having them help create that schedule, and there's kids are smart, and I think that helps when they participate in it. And again, whether that's a chore chart, and maybe they get to choose, some of the chores they have instead of always just being assigned. Yep. It's giving them choices and having that buy-in into being part of the family. Yeah. And setting up those routines, because they might have some even better ideas than we do as parents, how to make things easier or what might work for them to make it easier.
Yeah, and they always tend to surprise us too. Because I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that as being like a critical part of your morning routine, but that is a big deal, to some of my, whenever we've talked about that in our house. So I love that. And I love too that having them, there's all kinds of things, and we'll show some examples of them in the next couple of slides of, the visuals and the charts and the checklist. But sometimes our best buy-in is just ones created by our own kids. If they draw the pictures themselves and they took the time to give their input, or they write the list themselves, or they type it and make it look really cool. Things like that. You're so right, Leanne. It does help with that buy-in piece. The other thing that I wanted to mention earlier that I forgot was even within, I have 3 sons, and even within my 3, I have to let them know their schedules differently. So, I have one where I can only tell him, you're going to do this, and then this comes next, and then that's it. Because everything after that is like, whoo, we lost it, and then once we get through those 2 things, then, like he's coming and checking in, and then I'm giving him 2 more things to do. And then I have one where he, does the whole routine with, minimal reminders. And then, I have another one where his routine needs to be very much he does the exact thing. So I need to know that if, that morning, or I'm just talking about mornings for now, but if for that morning, if something is going to change in our schedule, I have to let him know the night before, like we talk about it. I let him know like what time it's going to be happening, what the change is for, the purpose behind it. And then the next morning, it really helps us build into that change into our morning schedule. So I do know too that we all have, different kids, different needs, even within our own houses. So it is okay. You don't have to just do one blanket, schedule. This is all you're getting, because we do have to adjust and make sure that it's working for each kid that we have.
All right, so this is one of my favorite things to talk about. Consider having downtime. I mean, who doesn't like downtime? I know some people have preferences of downtime at night, and there's some people that love their morning, getting up at 5 a.m. and drinking their coffee. This is something that I think is very important for our kids when they have these super crazy busy schedules. Everyone's doing different things at different times, and the schedules are fabulous, but having that time where, okay, I can just sit and I can just relax, whether it's with an activity or maybe they just want to be alone reading a book. So just kind of keeping that in mind, like maybe, at the end of the day, there could be a relaxing activity that maybe the entire family can do together, or, and I'm thinking teenagers, maybe they're wanting to just kind of have their own downtime, in their room, or maybe watching, like a certain show that's just their, their thing. Just really kind of seeing what the kiddo enjoys doing, and that kind of just decompress and relax. And that's something that could be scheduled in. And, I think for downtime, I think a lot of people look forward to it. I look forward to it at the end of the day, like, I don't really have to think anymore. I could just have that downtime. So it's almost, in a way, could be very reinforcing to have that relaxing time. And with this, try to avoid, maybe being on the phone or being on an iPad during this time. I think maybe just giving that time to relax. Sometimes with the electronics, if it's video games, it could be very overstimulating. So kind of look at different things that are just, very relaxed, like maybe some Play-Doh or coloring. I know, and it's funny, I know coloring sounds, it might be like, we think of like little kids, but there's adult coloring books. That's what I think of. It could be, or maybe just drawing. But, this could be something that, the kiddo can look forward to at the end of the day. And, we might having to switch it up depending on, the age of the child too. I know everyone kind of has a different idea of what downtime is. And I know we all have different preferences. So it might change over time, or, asking your kid like, hey, what would you like to do? Or what do you find fun? But, something where we can kind of let's just relax. Let's just be and relax and, kind of come down from, the crazy busy schedule of the day. If anybody wants to add to that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think having that time set aside, especially if it's closer to, when your child is going to be heading to bed, to just kind of, and that it's something that you guys have talked about, and it's something that they, have shared, like what are, a few things for your kid that they've shared, like, oh, well, it really does help me when, you sit down and read this book, or if we all watch this show together as a family, or, whatever it is that they're giving you feedback for at that time. I think it's really important to give them that unwind time. Um, Before a lot of times, and I know that we do this here often than I would like, but sometimes your day just goes so long and it's so busy that you're home, dinner, shower, boom, homework, and then you're in bed, because it's too late. And that's okay. It could even be a smaller something, or a quick couple minutes just to You know, ask your kid, you know, how was your day as they're, you know, getting ready to go to bed, something even as simple as a conversation, or, you know, can you tell me a couple things that, you know, were wins for you today? Or maybe we're pointing out some things to them that we noticed that they did today, just to have that little decompression time before um, ending our day. And I do know that just for me here, it does help with, you know, some of those behaviors. It does help have the transition to going to bed be less of a struggle, because we've already had that downtime, that relaxing time, that it's not so abrupt, and they learn to expect it. So it goes back to the scheduling thing and the routine. They learn to know that, okay, once I'm done with all of these things, this is what I'm doing to prepare myself for that time, and it's not um, as big of a struggle when it's time to go to bed.
Mhm.
Do you ladies want to take a couple questions, or do you want to wait until?
Yeah.
Okay, so we talking about the schedules, we have a question about, what about the kiddos who become so used to a schedule that behaviors occur when something is out of place?
Yes, I have one of those.
I did too.
So what one of the things that really I really try to do or encourage is, we can't always predict those changes in our schedules, right? So, you know, I do as much as I can front load the changes that I know are going to happen. Stuff happens, you know, and there's just days where I wasn't sure that, you know, this was going to be happening this evening. And so that we are kind of out of sorts, and I didn't get a chance to front load. So it's really taking that behavior opportunities. So say we missed the front load, the behavior is already happening. We're kind of working through that with them. One of the things that we can do is once they are calmed down or de-escalated, um, is having that conversation with them afterwards, like that debrief, like, okay, you know, let's talk about what happened. Let's talk about what was different in your schedule. Um, you know, maybe this is a super generic example, so I'm sorry for this, but like maybe every Monday is spaghetti, and holy cow, I went to go make spaghetti on Monday, no idea that I was out of noodles, right? So as much as I could turn around and say like, oh, hey, like, by the way, it's already changed, you know, and what that front load, but afterwards talking about, you know, what was it in the schedule that was different? Um, what are some things that you think would be helpful for you to be able to do to either calm yourself down, um, work through the disappointment of the schedule change, work through the anxiety of a schedule change? There's so many emotions that can come with a schedule change. And let's identify those. And then let's talk about what are some things that we can do when you're feeling this way? What are some alternative things? If you're starting to feel yourself get anxious, then here's, you know, what you said is helpful for you. So I'm going to make sure, you know, that that's something that you can have. Or, um, you know, next time, what could I have done? What could we have done differently with this schedule change that, you know, maybe wouldn't have made you as upset? So I think having those conversations, if you can, after, really can be beneficial into getting their buy-in before. And then I think too, you know, if you have a child that's nonverbal, you know, we have to think about that too. Their schedules and routines are just as important. They can't have those conversations with us. So we're really trying to work through that with them by giving them strategies. If they're frustrated, you know, maybe we're giving them something to do with their hands if they're hitting, or things like that, trying to give them some of those replacement things that they can do versus the big behaviors that we might see from a schedule change.
Mm-hmm. And that's when the choices can come into offering maybe two choices. You know, there was a change, but hey, we could do this or do this, if that is an option. And also with the schedules, if there is going to be a time when there is a lot of changes, you could just write it down on a whiteboard and then, you know, have your kid, you know, cross it off. Okay, we did this. Okay, now we got, you know, in case something changes, you're not stuck to something that was printed out. And the whiteboard's really good to make those changes prior to, you know, okay, if you have the schedules there, it's printed out. And then if there is that change, then we're, you know, going back, scribbling it. It's like whiteboard, wipe it off, put something else in there. We'll make it happen, change it. So there's always that option too, if there is days where there's lots of changes.
You know, and I love the suggestion too of not in the moment, right? not when everybody is frazzled, but afterwards, like you said, using that as an opportunity to teach that resilience and to give them those strategies of, okay, well, that clearly didn't work, right? But what could we do next time? What, you know, what were you feeling? And what would be a better alternative to that? Because you know what? Our kids don't want to feel out of control either. It is not like, you know, that is a win for them to be a hot mess, right? They feel bad about themselves afterwards. And, you know, and so really it's using that opportunity to regroup, talk it through, try again, you know, but again, like you said, just teaching them that resilience that, okay, things are going to change. You know, life isn't always going to go A, B, C, and D as much as, you know, we all would like it to. Here's another question I think that kind of ties into this is, when your kids break the non-negotiable rules, what do you do? As an example, I asked my 6-year-old daughter to not wake up my 5-year-old son. I have asked her nice, create a sign, raised my voice, and explained why she should not do it, and yet she still does.
So, you know, looking at, okay, so if those rules are broken, what is going to be the outcome? Does something, you know, is, okay, now we can't do this activity because you did that. So looking at what is going to be that plan after if the rules are broken, and explaining that to the kiddo and being like, okay, if you do that, this is what's gonna happen, or, you know, a certain toy is going to be taken away, or whatever, you know, right. Whatever that, you know, you guys came up with.
And I think, like you ladies have talked about before, it's again that front loading. You know, this is a trigger, right? You know, this is something, it's clearly, you know, bugging you, mom or dad, right? That we've done all these steps and it is still happening and you are not respecting the rule. So clearly there needs to be, you know, a consequence. But again, too, you know, set up that expectation ahead of time. You know, have that conversation that, listen, I have asked you not to do this. You are breaking the rule. And this is what will happen if you choose to do it again. And then following through with that, by all means, because if you don't follow through, you know, then your word doesn't, you know, mean a whole lot to them, unfortunately. You know, but also, so I think it's that front loading, but it's also, you know, and then following through, but it's also too, as Jessica mentioned, you have to know your kiddo, right? What one consequence for one of my children would have been very impactful. You know, just even the raising of my voice would have been, okay, slow your roll, mom, I got it, okay? And that was enough, you know. Another one, you know, World War III, and they'd still look at you like, bring it on, that's all you got, you know. And so it really is, you know, finding what is it that motivates them? What is going to get their attention? Like, you know, is it no TV for the evening? Is it, you know, but again, you know, based on their developmental level and, you know, their capabilities, And you know your child best. Again, you know, taking away a toy from one child may be the worst consequence ever, and they would be devastated. Oh no, not, you know, my Tonka truck, you know, or not my cell phone, but another child that may mean nothing to. So you have to know what that consequence. Jessica, you have any input?
Yeah, I would say too, another thing to talk to her about, 'cause I think you said the daughter's waking up the son, right?
Mhm.
Is also, could we keep track of, um, you know, the days that she's not waking brother up? So if Monday you didn't wake brother up, holy cow, party. Well, let's do Saturday. Come on, let's be real. We want our Saturdays, right? No, that's obvious. It's going to be a win if we don't have kids waking other kids up, right? So two, you could, one, let her know, you know, what, that this is a non-negotiable, and you know what the consequence would be if she did. But then also on the flip side, if she doesn't, what are we doing? Are we um, playing like the best game of whatever, this is how old I am, go fish or whatever, you know? Or are we going to get like some one-on-one time with, you know, maybe mom, where maybe you get your nail, you know, mom's going to paint your nails tonight, or um you know, it doesn't always have to be that like we're going and buying our kids things. Like a lot of times it's really, they just love the acknowledgement that we are recognizing that they have done an expectation that we have set for them. And then two, the thing that they love the most next is our time. So um you know, maybe it could just be, you know, she wants a certain story read to her, or you go for a walk, you know, a family walk together, or something. You can incorporate everybody. It just doesn't have to be the one. But I think too, getting her buy-in on the days that she doesn't wake brother up, then what is going to be, um, you know, the reinforcement for that day for her.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, oh, oh, okay. So we do have a couple of visuals that we just wanted to share as far as the checklist, scheduling. I'll go through them here. Um, we tried to give examples, so some of them are the pictures, some of them are, and these are all online, like easy to go find, print off. If you don't have access to things to print or anything like that too, you can always let us know, and we're happy to, the Family Resource Center, as well as I know our team, we have access to all of those things. And plus we kind of keep like a little library of some of these things that we're happy to share with you guys too. So just afternoon, some screen time checklist. So this kind of stuff, like I have one of my sons is 15, and so this kind of works for him really well. He's motivated for that screen time. And so he knows, you know, that he's got certain things that are required of him throughout his day to be able to access that screen time. So that works really well for our family. But if there's other things that your kids like to work for, or other responsibilities, it's nice to have the blank ones too, that you can change, you know, daily or weekly, whatever's going to work best for you and your family.
All right, and we're gonna move into calming strategies, which kind of talked earlier about that downtime and kind of having that time, you know, having our kids having that time to themselves. Also kind of goes along with the calming strategies. It does promote self-regulation. If you have a kiddo that has high anxiety and high stress, you know, they may have certain times of the day when, you know, they have those triggers and they feel more anxious. There are some kiddos where they're anxious all the time. So looking for those different ways that calms them. I know with, you know, calming strategies, I think we typically think of like, okay, we're going to sit, we're going to meditate, we're going to deep breathe. I think that maybe works for some people, and some people absolutely hate it because they're having to think more about stuff. So really figuring out, you know, what does your kid like to do? There's some kiddos that love just going outside and running a couple laps and then we're ready to go. You know, I think of even with adults, there's some people that love yoga. Some people absolutely hate yoga. Some people need to go out and get a good run in, or, you know, a brisk walk, or whatever it is. Even just that movement, everyone is different. So figuring out, you know, what do they like, and then having their input on it, and have them do it even when they aren't upset. Do it when, hey, if they're totally regulated, we're good to go. Hey, let's do that calming strategy. Let's practice it, because in those moments we will want to, you know, when they're escalated and saying, hey, take a deep breath. I mean, who wants to be told to take a deep breath when they're already escalated? That will probably frustrate, I think, anyone at that point. But doing that prior to, you know, a stressful situation, or let's do that in the morning prior to going to school, or whatever, you know, before that trigger. And even if there's no triggers, let's practice that. Let's talk about it. Let's just get regulated. So when, you know, the stressful situation starts coming up, we can start, oh, I got my calming strategies. This is what I need to do. And also with those, I know, like I put, you know, examples, deep breathing, going for a 3-minute walk, if that is something that you can do. If not, maybe something, you know, they can do while they're sitting, counting to 10, squeezing a ball, doing jumping jacks, stretching, you know, depending on what that trigger is and, you know, where they are in that moment. And maybe, you know, sorting out, okay, we're going to have 2 to 3 predetermined strategies, and these are our go-to, and talking about them and practicing them throughout the day kind of helps when they're in that moment. Okay, let me turn to that, you know, I could choose one of my 2 coping strategies, opposed to, you know, here's an entire list of 10 different ones to do, you know, but just keeping it really simple and to the point, you know, prior to and during that, you know, those stressful situations.
I saw in the question, a mama talked about her 3-year-old son getting upset and grinding his teeth. And I know one of the strategies I've seen other parents use with their little preschool age kiddos too are blowing bubbles. You know, and what a distraction that is to them. It really is very calming for some kiddos. But again, you know, think outside the box. You know your child best, right? And it's that coming up with a strategy that works for them. And like you said, keeping it simple. That's a great idea, Amber.
And then also too, I think of, you know, if your kiddo needs a certain, like, you know, sensory object, you know, a squeeze ball, and I'm thinking of, you know, those things that you rub, they're like, have like the flat side, you know, even just having a specific bin with a couple of those things that they can go to. Okay, here's the bin, here it is, they know where it is, they can access that. Or, you know, let's make a list of 3 different things. Put it on the refrigerator if you have to. Let's refer back to them. Even when we're not escalated, hey, there's the calming strategies. Do you need a break? Do you need time to yourself? Do you need that downtime? But having it planned out and predetermined could really help with incorporating that and practicing it prior to, you know, we don't want to just sit around and wait for it to happen and then say, okay, here's your coping strategy. Let's do it prior to. Let's practice, you know, blowing those bubbles. Prior to
said to do them prior to. I love how you said to practice them when they're calm. And going back to, you know, kind of the theme that we've been having all night is I love too about really getting their buy-in, and, you know, what are some things that you think would work for you, or what are some things that you think we could try to help you when you're feeling this way. I think that's awesome.
And then also, and, you know, with the, you know, developmental, you know, aspects of the kid, you know, it's going to look different. A 3-year-old is going to look different than a 16-year-old. And also with coping, with the calming strategies, coping strategies, they do, you know, they could vary too. So we might, you know, after a couple months, we might need to switch it up and look for some other things or try different things. It's not going to be a, you know, one size fits all. Okay, we found it, we're good for the next 15 years. You know, you know, like adults, we change, we have different preferences, different reinforcement. We're like, oh, that's cool. Oh, we don't like that. I don't like that sound, or I don't like that feel. That's weird. Same for kiddos. It might switch up. It might switch up every month, but you can just change that and rotate it and write it down and refer back to it. And then, so here are some things. I love these because they're super simple and you can do them with your kiddo. And they're just kind of things that, you know, you don't need anything to do them. You can just read through it and, you know, do blowing the bubbles or the hot cocoa, fire hands, just kind of things to just kind of feel that and like, let's feel ourselves relax and calm down. And I like it because you can engage and we could do this together. I think that's a lot of fun to do it with the child, because you know, saying, okay, here, you know, you need to calm down, you need to relax. And sometimes over time when we're like, okay, you're the problem, you got to fix this. Seeing, okay, hey, maybe we both need to calm down in this situation. Let me do it with you. Let's try it together, and we can practice this together. Sometimes when we identify the child, okay, you're the issue. Well, sometimes, you know, everyone in the house, we all are escalated. It's all chaotic. Hey, let's all just do this together. Let's take 10 minutes and do some fire hands, you know? So I think it really kind of builds that rapport in that, you know, let's be in this together. We you know, we all got our, you know, our chaotic moments, and let's do this together and practice it. And if we don't like it, we switch it up. So
There may even be times that because we've done these with our kids, you know, we remember them, and so it may even be our kid has nothing to do with it, and we're just upset, and then I'm like, okay, I'm holding the hot cocoa and I'm blowing, you know, and then they're able to be like, oh my God, Mom, like, what's up? You're doing the hot cocoa thing again. That's a good conversation to have, and for them to see us to do those strategies even without them. Like, look, we all need to be doing them.
yeah, and we all get stressed and we all have anxiety, and hey, we all got to relax. So maybe that doing that, saying like, oh, okay, it's okay to be stressed. It's okay to be anxious. It's okay to be scared. Now, what are we going to do with that? And having the parent model that, I think is very helpful, especially for our little ones, when they see like, oh, okay, yeah, my parents are doing it, or, you know, grandma's doing it, or, you know, my cousin or who, like, you know, we're all going to be in this together. And modeling that and modeling how to relax and have some downtime, I think is important.
Okay. And then last but not least, you know, things don't always stick the first time, right? You know, it is part of, we can come together as a family and, or, you know, one child at a time or whatever works best for you guys. And we can come up with a plan, we can come up with strategies, we can make a schedule, we can say, here are some other things that I'm going to do instead, here's what calms me down. And then as we're utilizing those things, there may be some parts of it that just aren't working, or there may be things that we're like, oh, we really do need to add this into the schedule, this would make a big difference. So it's not like when we create these things that they're set in stone. They are totally made to be flexible, and we totally don't expect everything to work the very first time, you know, that we're trying something. um, you know, our kids' needs change, whether that's age or whatever they need at certain times, and it's okay to go back to the drawing board and rehab those conversations and get their input of what isn't working for you with this, because we're still having maybe, you know, some issues or some behaviors with certain things. And then rebuilding back um, some new additional things. It's okay. It's not a complete failure if the plan's not working, or if it's working for, you know, maybe a couple weeks, and then we're like, oh, you know, now we're starting to kind of get back to where we were. It's okay to change it up and have to come back together and, you know, make things fit. for whatever's going to work for your family. That's okay. It's not a failure. It doesn't mean that we're bad parents. It doesn't mean that we don't know what we're doing. It doesn't mean that our kids are ever going to accept help from us. It just means that we're going to go back to the drawing board and we're going to figure out something that is going to work for you now, and let's move forward from there.
So there's a couple questions. If I know we're running a little late, and so participants, if you've got to go, we understand. Again, this will be recorded and you can watch it. I will send out that link tomorrow. But for those of you that are hanging with us, which is the majority, I just so grateful, because I think these are just such good, honest conversations. And so I'm so grateful, Jessica and Amber, that you took your time to help all of us navigate this world of parenting.
Right?
So
Him as a manual, but
right.
and we're constantly trying to figure it out, and that's okay. One gave us a book on how to do this perfectly, right?
Right. So here's a good question. We have a preteen daughter. Her mood changes quickly, and when she's mad or frustrated, she can ruin the mood for all. It takes time to get her to change her attitude. Any suggestions? And that kind of ties in with another one, just a few questions above that, about what about triggers that can make a kid go from 0 to 60 in just a few seconds. So it's that quick mood change, I think, is the first part. And then the second part would be just sort of the tone it sets for everyone.
Mm-hmm. And that's probably frustrating for everyone, because if everyone, is in a great mood, everyone's okay, we're all on the same page, we're all doing what we need to do. And then all of a sudden, someone's upset, and now everyone's upset, and they're trying to, calm that person and, make sure they're okay, and so on and so forth. I think when, really looking at, okay, what is it when she is in a good mood? What does that look like? And can we really hey, bringing it back, I really appreciate you helping your brother out, or I really appreciate you really told me what you wanted. I really appreciate that. Let me know if there's something that you need. And especially if her triggers and what's going to really set off, really front loading and be like, hey, I know this, this might be a difficult time for you. We're going to do X, Y, and Z, whatever that is. What can we do to make this easier? Are you feeling anxious? Are you feeling sad about something? Sometimes with that anger, there's sometimes something underlying. So kind of figuring that out, and when she's in that good mood, figuring out okay, what is going on, or what is that trigger, front loading, and really praising her when she is in that good mood, and maybe doing what the expectations are.
And do you think, because my first thought too is, in that moment though, if you're not able to kind of turn that situation around, do you think that it's appropriate that I think you need some alone time? Maybe that will help you calm down, think about being able to participate with the rest of the family with a nicer attitude, because sometimes it really is removing them from that situation of, you need to go decompress for a while. For everybody's sake, right?
Yeah.
Because it's hard on the other kids too, on the siblings. If this one is constantly struggling with that, that sometimes it may be go have some alone time, and when you feel ready to come back and participate, then come on back. You're more than welcome. But for right now, go chill in your room.
Yeah. And also with that, you let her know this is, you're going to sit in your room, you're going to take some space, And then, you know, what's it going to look like after that? So setting that expectation, like, hey, I'm going to check in on you in 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever it is. I just want to make sure you're safe, you know, you're okay, you're calming down, and then go back in and check in and say, hey, where are we at? Do a rating scale of 1 to 5, where are you at? Keep it very short, simple. And then, okay, we're not ready. Okay, I'll come back in another 5 minutes and keep doing that. I also think too, you know, with people needing space, we also need to be mindful of our expressive language. If we're constantly trying to rationalize and like, what are you doing? Why'd you do that? Why are you here? Why you? That is overstimulated. That could escalate someone as well. So maybe keeping it, okay, you're going to go to your room, you're going to decompress. I'm going to check on you in 5 minutes just to make sure everything's okay. And then we walk out. So being really mindful of what we're saying as well. And, you know, hey, we're just going to let her have her space. You know, sometimes the other kids are running in there. They're like, hey, what's going on? You know, and sometimes that could be a little overwhelming. So really kind of having that when it does escalate, what exactly is the plan and what are we going to say? How are we going to respond?
Yeah.
And that is brilliant, because you are right. I am the one who wants to talk, you know, the entire time. And, you know, I have been told that, could you just stop talking, please? Oh, you know, oh, so this isn't, you know, the time that you want to, you know, hash it all out and share your feelings. You mean you just want to be left alone? That's teenager mode right there that I had to learn. I wasn't ready to transition into the, you know, 1 minute you're, you know, my cuddly little one who, you know, is stuck to my hip, and the next minute, you know, they become teenagers and somehow mom and dad, you know, are an annoyance, or, you know.
Yeah.
You know, such a good point. Like with our teenagers, like the hormones are real, you know, like, you know, really something that as parents, we cannot control. And our kids for that matter cannot control. And I remember, you know, one of my things that it's probably not the best, but you know, that I've said to my teenage son is, you know, you really need to change your attitude. So that's like one of my lines. That's not the best practice, but one time he told me, he's like, Mom, if I could change my attitude, I would. I don't know how to change my attitude right now. And it's just the overwhelming, you know, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's a little eye-opening. Like, I guess, yeah, you probably don't want to feel like a grouchy, you know, McGroucherton right now. Like, so it was in that moment, I did have to give him his space, but then we did talk about it after, like, well, when you are like, ooh, like he's, you know, what does it feel like? It comes on quick and then it shows and then everybody else feels it. You know, and for him, we have a 1-year-old puppy. And so he always says, you know, like, well, if I could just like go and be with her and, you know, spend time with her, it does kind of like snap me out of it when I feel like there's nothing I can do to change my attitude. So there is to, you know, having them identify like, you know, what are some of those activities when you're just feeling like teenager-y, where you're just, I don't know why I'm feeling this way, but it's not a good feeling. And I just need something to kind of shift my thoughts. And so that seems to be helpful for him.
All right. Well, I think we got just about all the questions answered. I see there were a couple in the question answer that were pretty specific, and so I would encourage you to reach out to one of us. You can reach me at the Family Resource Center, or one of these ladies. If you need their contact information, you can let me know and I will be happy to share that with you. And again, in that Google Drive, there is there's all the Family Resource Center contact information. So whatever we can do to help you navigate through this, let us know, and we are grateful that you joined us. Thank you for sticking with us. We went about 20 minutes over, but it really, I mean, how do you talk about all this, right?
A lot.
I mean, it's a lot, but you gave us some really good strategies, ladies, to think about, and I'm grateful for that. So don't forget to do your survey, please. And oh, hold on. Look, here's my encouragement. I almost forgot. So for the first 2 people who fill out their survey, I have a little gift bag I will mail you. Pretty exciting stuff. So
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
oh yeah, I'm not above bribery. Okay. No, it's not bribery. What is it? It's positive reinforcement, family.
Took the time to come. You deserve something. Yeah.
Right. First survey, then lunch bag. So if you want your name in that hat, fill out that survey. So on that note, thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
And again, reach out if you have specific questions. All right.
Thank you,
Good
guys.
night, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, the survey will show up when we log off, and if not, you'll see it in the email tomorrow. All right. Thank you. Good night.